The story begins with a man who was killed by a demon and then reincarnates in another world. Then he sees his skills and realizes he can absorb anyone's skills after eating them. He thinks he reincarnates as a behemoth. After that, we see a hot chick elf girl today's day and goes to a dungeon. After that, when that man sees his face, he realizes he is reincarnated as a cat with extraordinary skills. Then he sees a demon, Lord Rimuru. From that time, I got reincarnated as a slime and decides to eat him and absorb his skills. After eating him, he gets infinite storage and decides to kill more creatures. He attacks a wyvern, kills it, and eats it. After that, he sees an anaconda that is bigger than mine.
What did he say?
And kills it and eats it. Then we see Arya-chan riding on a boat, and a sailor is enjoying the view from the top, imagining about Arya-chan. She reaches near a dungeon and shows her gold card, but the soldier is dreaming of looking at her pink card. On the other side, after killing the anaconda, the cat sees a treasure chest and gets excited because in his previous life, he didn't find any. He opens the treasure chest and finds a transport crystal that teleports him to a dragon. The creature starts saying, "I sentence you to death," and starts attacking. The cat fights back, but the dragon can't get any damage. The dragon says, "You are weak," and cat flies using his skill called Aether Edge. The cat starts thinking, "Just a little further, I will be free," but suddenly faints. Then we see Arya-chan enter the dungeon and see the fainted cat. She reaches there to help him. The cat wakes up and feels strange about where he is and thinks he should have died in the dungeon. A lady moves closer to the cat and is happy he woke up. The cat wonders who the lady is and if he is in heaven. The lady introduces herself as Arya-chan and starts talking to the cat about how she met him while going into the dungeon on a quest. He has not even eaten since he reincarnated because monsters do not have much appetite. He is given kitty milk and he goes ahead to drink it. He promised to serve and protect his lifesaver as a true knight. The cat ran towards the way his master went. He decided to look after that girl and make Arya his master because she saved his life and decided to go with her without Arya noticing. Only E-rank goblins appeared to attack. Arya-chan stood up and fought the goblins. The cat marveled at how his master fought with the knives. Then suddenly, one goblin started attacking from behind, but thanks to her cat, who saved her with his power, Arya-chan was surprised and wondered why the cat came to the dungeon and also how she was saved by him. She thought the cat was no ordinary cat. As he expected, his master caressed him and thanked him for saving her. He felt so relieved as he was placed on her juicy melons, and he got angry when a man stopped them. The man, who was an S-rank adventurer, invited Arya-chan to join his party and was trying to flirt with her. But Arya-chan turned him down, saying she was not interested in joining a party with a man. He kept pushing further with his dirty game, and that pissed off the jealous cat, who cursed the man, looking at her with filthy eyes. Then the cat started attacking him and bit the man. The angry man got upset and moved ahead to kill the cat, but he was stopped by the guild's receptionist, Anna-san, who was an X-rank adventurer. The man lied to Anna-san, saying he was just showing off his sword, and ran away out of fear. Anna-san noticed the cat seemed promising and looked like a knight. Arya-chan told her the cat was her friend and had saved her when she was attacked earlier by a goblin in the dungeon. Arya-chan announced she would officially raise the cat as her pet from today on, and she named him Tama-chan. The cat, whose name is now Tama-chan, was happy he would be able to accompany his master without hesitation. Arya-chan invited Tama-chan for a bath, and he felt it was absurd for a proud knight like him to bathe with a female, but he did not have a choice. After all, he is his master's knight, and he needs to stay close to her in case anything happens. Arya-chan asked Tama-chan if she would ever become strong again and told him the story of how she was attacked by demonic troops years ago in the country where she used to live. It was then that the master fencer appeared. Tama-chan remembered he had heard about the master fencer and how he saved the entire country alone before and had always wished to be like him. Tama-chan then made a promise that day to his master to protect her until the day she achieved her ambitions. A little while after bathing, when they got to the Adventure Guild, she told them that it was not the right time because the man had just brought bad news to her. The bad news was that Tama-chan would be slain for injuring the Baron's son. Tama-chan immediately thought of running away to avoid being slain, but he still could not leave his master because of the vow he had made to her. The man told them the only solution was to have a duel with him, and if she won, the decree would be revoked and he would take her as a wife. I, as an editor, always knew this filthy man's eyes were always on my area's juicy melons. Tama-chan felt so bad that he could not protect his master and promised to make the man pay for making his master cry. The duel began between the D-rank adventurer and Arya-chan. The man told Arya-chan to surrender as her cat was powerless and her moves were too simple. He wanted to attack her with a knife, but Tama-chan jumped into the scene and saved his master from getting stabbed. His only duty is protecting his master with his life. While the fight was going on, Tama-chan got hurt, and the man told Arya-chan, that it would have been avoided if only she had accepted to be his wife. Tama-chan told his master not to surrender, as he would do everything to save her. He would have to use a non-magical skill, but he would be found out if he did that. All of a sudden, Tama-chan used one of his skills, Iron Shield, and the man suddenly went flying and landed on the floor. Arya-chan was confused if it was Tama-chan that did that, and in the end, she was able to defeat the man. Arya-chan was declared the winner, and she thanked Tama-chan for saving her. On the other hand, she scolded him and warned him not to do something dangerous like that next time. Anna-san told Arya-chan that the skill Tama-chan used at the end was so strong that he thought he was a monster, but he thought he had come across an elemental cat with racial skills that understand human language and emotion. After that, they went to their home and slept together. The cat was happy, and that's where episode 1 ends. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and watch our best videos in end screen.
In this world, people gain unique abilities by eating the fruit of the skill tree. These abilities range from becoming a powerful firebender to a legendary sword saint. However, for Light, his skill was far less impressive. He became a nutting master. The day of the skill ceremony was one of excitement and hope. Light and his childhood friend, Lena, walked together to the church, eagerly discussing their potential skills. Light had always dreamed of being an adventurer, so any combat-oriented skill would do. Lena, on the other hand, didn't care what skill she received, as long as she could stay by Light's side. Despite her nervousness, Light reassured her that they would both gain incredible skills. At the church, the Holy Sister explained the rules of the skill fruits. Eating a fruit would grant a skill tied to a specific profession, ensuring a secure job without the burden of student loans. However, there was a strict, immutable rule. No one could eat more than one skill fruit. Consuming a second would result in certain death, a warning cemented by the tales of countless victims who had ignored it. Lena was the first to choose. As she bit into her fruit, her body radiated a blinding light, and the Holy Sister gasped. Lena had acquired the legendary Sword Saint skill. It was a once-in-a-decade occurrence, and Lena's destiny as a top-tier adventurer was sealed. Light cheered for his friend, overjoyed by her success, before stepping up to claim his own skill. Nervously, he took a bite of his chosen fruit, but instead of gaining an awe-inspiring combat ability, he was blessed, or cursed, with the nutting master skill. The Holy Sister tried to console him, but the truth was clear. His ability was limited to farming nuts. Devastated, Light begged to try another fruit, but the fatal consequences were non-negotiable. Lena, ever supportive, promised to stay in the village and help Light grow nuts. However, the Holy Sister had other plans. Lena's talent as a sword saint was too precious to squander, and the sister insisted she leave for the royal capital immediately to begin her training. Torn but unable to refuse, Lena left, promising Light she would return for him one day. 3 months passed. Light had embraced his role as a farmer, using his skill to grow and sell high-quality nuts. Though his profits were modest, he tried to stay positive. However, the pain of Lena's absence lingered, and news of her rapid rise to S-rank adventurer only deepened his sense of inadequacy. Despite his skill's limitations, Light trained tirelessly, hoping to awaken a hidden talent. Day after day, he practiced with a sword, striking at a tree stump in vain. Exhausted and disheartened, he questioned whether Lena still remembered him, or if her new life had erased their bond. One evening, his young ward, Aya, interrupted his spiraling thoughts. Orphaned and abandoned by the village chief, Aya had been taken in by Light, and the two had since formed a makeshift family. She invited him inside for dinner, proudly serving a stew she had made. Light praised her effort, but as he ate, Aya casually mentioned using the special fruits he had stored in boxes marked with skull symbols. Panic set in. Those fruits were skill fruits, and consuming more than one was supposed to be fatal. Light braced himself for the end, his body racked with heat and pain. Yet, as moments passed, he realized he wasn't dying. Instead, a surge of power coursed through him, accompanied by the emergence of a second skill, Sword God. Aya, too, began experiencing changes. She had unknowingly acquired an appraisal skill from the stew and could now read Light's abilities. To their astonishment, his nutting master skill granted immunity to nut-based toxins, allowing him to survive the second fruit. The Sword God skill dramatically boosted his attack power and magic resistance when wielding a sword, making him far more powerful than he'd ever dreamed. Eager to test his newfound strength, Light raced to the forest. With a single swing of his sword, he effortlessly cleaved the tree stump and the massive tree behind it in two. Overwhelmed with excitement, he decided it was time to pursue his dream of becoming an adventurer. The next day, Light ventured to the guild, determined to prove his worth. For the first time in his life, he felt that his dreams were within reach. Armed with his newfound skills and an unwavering determination, Light prepared to carve a new path for himself, one that would reunite him with Lena and allow him to stand beside her as an equal. Light had always dreamed of becoming an adventurer, and today might be his chance. After gaining his newfound powers, he visited the Adventurers Guild to officially begin his journey. Turning to Aya, he said, "Stay here on this bench while I grab us a quest," and headed to the front desk. As Light stepped away, Aya, brimming with curiosity, used her newly acquired appraisal skill to scan the other adventurers in the guild. She was amazed by the wide variety of skills people had, from elemental magic to combat mastery. But she also found some skills shockingly useless, like one man who had a self-damaging ability. Just then, a commotion broke out near the front desk. Looking over, Aya saw Light in the middle of an argument with another adventurer. The man at the center of the dispute recognized Light as the nut seller from the market and mocked him, claiming that someone like Light didn't belong in the guild. But Light ignored the taunts entirely and calmly turned to Aya, saying, "Let's go." The man, offended by being ignored, lashed out and attacked Light with his sword. However, thanks to his sword god skill, Light's reflexes were far superior, and he effortlessly blocked the strike. Shocked, the man stumbled back, realizing that Light wasn't the easy target he'd assumed. Seeing that Light wasn't someone to mess with, the man's friends quickly intervened, convincing him to drop the matter. Claiming he hadn't been serious about the attack, the man and his group stormed off to their first mission. Shortly afterward, Light and Aya left the guild, their first quest in hand. Their mission took them to the rocky plains, where Light couldn't contain his excitement. "Stay close to me," he told Aya. Soon they spotted their target, a slime monster gliding across the distance. Light approached cautiously, trying to sneak up on it, but the slime noticed him right away. Forced to abandon stealth, Light charged forward, slicing the slime in half with a single swing. The ground cracked beneath his blade, a testament to his overwhelming strength. Aya cheered for Light's first successful quest, but they still had work to do. To complete the task, they needed to carve up the slime's remains and return the parts to the guild for payment. Aya hesitated, feeling bad about cutting up the creature, but Light reminded her that the reward would be enough to buy pizza. With her moral qualms vanishing at the thought of pizza, Aya eagerly helped dissect the slime. Their task was interrupted by a distant shout. Rushing toward the sound, they found Jean, the adventurer who had mocked Light earlier, and his party under attack by a massive ogre. The group had picked an easy slime quest, but had run into this far deadlier creature by mistake. The ogre swung its massive club, forcing the group to dodge. They were clearly outmatched. Jean, spotting Light, quickly came up with a plan. He and his friends ran straight toward him, hoping to use Light as bait to escape. Realizing their intention, Light sighed. "Figures," he muttered. With the ogre now focused on him, Light had no choice but to fight. As the ogre swung its club, Light dodged, but Aya reminded him that his sword god skill didn't boost his defense. One mistake could be fatal. Undeterred, Light resolved to push himself. "If I want to be the world's greatest adventurer, I have to overcome this," he thought. Channeling his newfound strength, Light leapt into the air, dodging another attack, and slashed the ogre's club in half. The creature roared in frustration, but Light was undeterred. In one swift motion, he brought his blade down, cleaving the ogre in two. Jean and his friends, watching from a nearby hill, were left speechless. Later, back at the guild, Light handed over the slime parts and the ogre horn as proof of his success. The receptionist was skeptical at first, but Jean's friends backed Light's story, confirming that he had defeated the ogre single-handedly. The receptionist, now impressed, prepared his reward. As Light waited, Jean and his friends thanked him for saving their lives, albeit somewhat begrudgingly. The guild's atmosphere suddenly shifted as a crowd gathered near the entrance. Jean explained that the S-rank party had just returned, and among them was Lena, Light's childhood friend and the person he'd been striving to catch up to. This was the first time he had seen her in 3 months. Excited, Light approached Lena, calling out to her. But to his shock, she looked at him with cold eyes and said, "I've never met this man before in my life." And thus, episode 1 concluded.
Takumi is unexpectedly summoned to another world, finding himself standing before the goddess Nolan. However, the first thing she does is apologize sincerely, explaining that it was all a huge mistake. When the summoning spell is cast, it randomly selects individuals from Earth to become heroes in the new world. Takumi's life had been going well, and he was never meant to be summoned, but an error during the spell dragged him here along with the others. The mistake is blamed on the Holy Sidonia Empire, who recklessly activated the forbidden summoning spell. Because of this, Takumi was not sent to Sidonia like the other heroes, but instead to Nolan. Takumi asks Nolan if she can send him back to Earth, given that he was brought here by mistake. Unfortunately, Nolan explains that she cannot. Out of frustration over Sidonia's actions, Nolan had erased the summoning spell from the world's magic laws, making it impossible for anyone to move between worlds anymore. Worse yet, Takumi's original body had perished in the process, leaving him as a disembodied spirit. Panicking at the realization that he's a ghost, Takumi is reassured by Nolan that she has a plan. While she can't send him back, she can give him a new body and allow him to become a citizen of this world. As an apology, Nolan also offers him her blessing to make his new life easier. Takumi, with little choice, agrees to be reborn in this world, which pleases Nolan. She then instructs him to open his status screen to review his new life. Takumi is surprised to find that Nolan has given him a 17-year-old body, even though he's actually 40 years old. Nolan brushes off his concerns about the minor details and urges him to choose a job class. Takumi, not wanting to fight, opts for a production-based job rather than a combat class. Nolan then implants the job into his soul, along with several other beneficial blessings. She sends him on his way, forgetting to provide him with any tutorials. Takumi crashes into a forest upon his rebirth, and after picking himself up, checks his reflection in a nearby river. He's now a completely different person, with no memory of his old body. Inside the bag Nolan left for him, Takumi finds food rations and money, ensuring that he won't starve. His status screen reveals that Nolan has equipped him with many useful skills, including elemental magic. Curious, Takumi tests out his new powers by forming a water ball in his hand. He quickly learns that all the elements work in the same way, and he can control them with ease. Now that he understands his magic, Takumi decides to head to the nearest village. On his way, Takumi stumbles across a stick lying in the path. Using his appraisal skill, he identifies it as Trent wood, a material useful for crafting magic staves and spears. Deciding to try out his crafting abilities, he uses his skills to make a spear. He then spends the next hour gathering useful plants nearby, filling his item box with the plants when he realizes they won't fit in his bag. Suddenly, a young girl runs toward him, calling for help. She explains that a monster is chasing her, and Takumi soon sees a massive horned rabbit charging toward them. In a panic, Takumi attempts to defend himself, but in an accidental twist of fate, he ends up stabbing the rabbit in the head, killing it instantly. Surprised by his victory, Takumi realizes it was due to luck, not skill. As a result of the encounter, Takumi gains the job title of warrior, a class he didn't want. After ensuring the girl Molly is unharmed, Takumi learns she was out gathering herbs where she wandered too far from the village. Takumi, feeling it would be wasteful to leave it behind, stashes the rabbit in his item box. Realizing too late that he revealed his ability, he decides there's no turning back. As they approach the village, the other summoned heroes are arriving at Sidonia, confused and disoriented. They are introduced to Empress Elizabeth, who tells them they have been summoned to save the world. However, one of the heroes, Akana, feels instinctively that Elizabeth cannot be trusted, as her gut tells her the Empress is deceptive. Meanwhile, Takumi and Molly arrive at the village where her parents, Banga and Martha, express gratitude for Takumi's help. Takumi asks if he can stay in the village for a while, as he has nowhere else to go. The couple welcomes him but explains that there is no inn in the village. However, they suggest building him a house, and soon all the villagers gather to start construction. Takumi uses his earth magic to flatten the ground, but using such a large-scale spell drains his mana. The villagers are amazed at his power, and the next morning his house is completed, thanks to his skills in carpentry, blacksmithing, and sewing. Takumi then decides to practice alchemy using ores he gathered to extract metal. He successfully turns iron ore into usable material, but finds that the process consumes a lot of mana, leading him to nearly pass out. He's saved by Martha and Banga, who give him a recovery potion. Despite their warnings, Takumi continues to experiment with his alchemy skills, eventually making useful tools and weapons. Later, Takumi asks Banga for some basic potions to use as templates for his own creations. After making his own potions with herbs he collected, he compares them to Banga's potions. Takumi's version appears more magical, but unsure of its effects, he tests it by building poison tolerance, consuming the potion until he nearly dies, then healing himself. One day, Takumi encounters a massive boar and a poison spider. The boar charges at him, and despite his attempts to defend himself with magic and a spear, nothing works. Just as he's about to be overrun, the spider intervenes, attacking the boar. Takumi, seeing the opportunity, uses alchemy to break down the boar's head, defeating it. The spider is injured, but Takumi heals it, and it ends up becoming his pet, which he names Maple. Returning to the village, Takumi shows off the giant boar and his new pet spider. The villagers are amazed, especially by the fact that he managed to tame such a dangerous creature. Takumi suggests they share the boar meat since it's too much for him to eat alone, and a feast is held in his honor. Banga brings him the valuable leftovers, which can be sold for money in the nearest city, Bolton. Takumi decides that his next destination will be Bolton. All the while, Goddess Nolan watches Takumi's progress with satisfaction. She is pleased with how well he is adapting to this new world. One of her fellow goddesses asks her what she hopes to achieve with her special treatment of Takumi, but Nolan claims she's just doing what feels right, without any specific goal in mind. As the episode ends, it seems that Takumi's journey in this new world is just beginning. The anime opens with the Demon King summoning what are said to be the 4 strongest generals in his demon army. The first is Aladora, the warrior of hell. The second is Silid, the Grand Mage of Storms. The third is Nome, the Earth Fortress. Lastly, there is a newly appointed general who appears shocked and bewildered by his sudden arrival, Fuchimura, the Director of Operations, who turns out to be the protagonist of the story. The scene shifts to Uchimura's past. He was once a simple office worker, full of hope and ambition to achieve great success. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. His colleagues were promoted one after another while he remained overlooked and unappreciated. A turning point came when his manager transferred him overseas to a factory still under construction, an infamous location known as a graveyard for failures. Uchimura moved to the new town with a glimmer of hope. When he reached out to his manager for help, he was met with anger and accusations of wasting company resources. Despite this, Uchimura refused to give up. Determined to succeed, he poured all his efforts into revitalizing the factory, doing everything himself from organizing to cleaning and more. Over time, his hard work paid off. The workers began to respect and support him, and the factory started to thrive. Just when things were finally improving, an unexpected blow came. His manager decided to transfer him to another factory in a different country. Devastated, Uchimura questioned the purpose of his efforts. One day, while lost in thought on the street, a motorcycle suddenly hit him from behind. In that moment, he found himself transported to the realm of the Demon King. At first, Uchimura believed he had landed in hell. The Demon King welcomed him warmly, calling him by name. Shocked, Uchimura asked how the Demon King knew his name. The Demon King confidently replied, "Of course I know you, I summon you here." He explained that after reviewing Uchimura's professional history, he was certain Uchimura was the perfect candidate to become the 4th general in his army. But Uchimura, still conflicted, responded that joining the Demon King's army sounded like a descent into the depths of the underworld. However, the Demon King interrupted, assuring him, "I'll provide you with all the benefits and perks you could ask for. You'll have complete freedom to choose anyone you want to work under you, and your salary will match that of top executives in your world." Uchimura was taken aback by the offer, struggling to process what he was hearing. The Demon King added, "If you're not satisfied, I'll send you back to your world." Relieved by the Demon King's respect for his autonomy, Uchimura began to reconsider. The other generals, however, protested. They voiced their disbelief that a weak human like Uchimura could ever become a general in the demon army. Uchimura thought to himself that they were probably right, but the Demon King remained unfazed, declaring, "If all of you object, then we'll put him to the test." Uchimura was stunned. The Demon King explained, "If he passes the test, none of you will have any grounds to object." Mandora, driven by her fascination with the supernatural powers of individuals from another world, decided to test these claims herself. She launched a devastating attack on Uchimura. Before her attack could land, the Demon King intervened, halting her assault. When Mandora demanded an explanation for his interference, he calmly pointed out her tendency to lose control when angered. He directed her attention to Uchimura, who had collapsed from the overwhelming shock of the incident. The onlookers, stunned by the scene, expressed disbelief, noting that Uchimura was nothing more than an ordinary human. The Demon King affirmed this fact, prompting Mandora to question how someone so ordinary could hold the position of one of his generals. Despite her objections, the Demon King stood by his decision, explaining that Uchimura's presence in the army was deliberate. The Demon King acknowledged the internal challenges within his forces, but emphasized that Uchimura's intelligence and strategic thinking were precisely what the army needed. The Demon King revealed that Uchimura's first test would be to secure an agreement with the Minotaur army. This revelation left Uchimura stunned, comparing the challenge to the difficulty of a high-stakes job interview. The Demon King informed Uchimura that he could turn to Mandora for assistance if needed and left him to face the daunting task ahead. Mandora interrupted his thoughts, announcing their arrival at their destination, a massive door, which she identified as the entrance to the Minotaur leader's chamber. As the door creaked open, Uchimura was overwhelmed by fear at the sight of the towering Minotaur leader. The leader's imposing figure made Uchimura doubt whether peaceful negotiation was even possible. Sensing his hesitation, Mandora offered to help, sharing some tips on negotiation. Uchimura felt a brief sense of relief, but it quickly evaporated as her abrasive approach immediately angered the Minotaur leader. Observing the chaos, Uchimura silently concluded that Mandora was ill-suited for diplomacy. After leaving the chamber, Mandora explained that the negotiations had initially been going well but collapsed when the leader outright rejected the proposed conditions. She admitted to multiple failed attempts to negotiate in the past and, in her frustration, blamed the Minotaur leader for being unreasonable. Turning to Uchimura, she declared it was now his turn to handle the negotiations, leaving him speechless and unsure of how to proceed. Standing alone, Uchimura questioned how he could possibly persuade such an intimidating creature. In his uncertainty, a memory surfaced of difficult negotiations he had faced in his previous life. During challenging times, he would retreat to a quiet tavern to clear his mind and find clarity. Recalling how he had always managed to overcome obstacles, he steadied himself, drawing upon his past experiences and resolving to succeed in the negotiations, no matter what lay ahead. The focus shifted to the Demon King, where Mandora provided an update on Uchimura's situation. The Demon King, maintaining his composure, expressed confidence in waiting to see how Uchimura's negotiations would unfold. Later, Mandora stumbled upon Uchimura surrounded by piles of trash, rummaging through the mess as requested by the Minotaur leader. Several filled bags sat neatly beside him. She remarked on how quickly he had taken control of the negotiations. The following day, Uchimura entered the Minotaur leader's chamber. Mandora, unable to suppress her curiosity, decided to check on the progress. To her surprise, the room was filled with heaps of the Minotaur leader's trash, but neither Uchimura nor the leader was present. Confused, she speculated that the negotiations might have failed, prompting the leader to leave. At that moment, Uchimura appeared calmly, explaining that the Minotaur leader was with the Demon King finalizing the agreement. Mandora, baffled, demanded to know what had happened. Uchimura revealed that the agreement had been completed the previous day. Stunned, Mandora questioned how he managed to strike a deal with someone so notoriously stubborn in just one day. But Uchimura explained to her that she had misunderstood the situation. She believed the Minotaur leader was rejecting the negotiations, but in reality, the negotiations were progressing smoothly. The issue, he said, was the negotiation approach. He shared an experience from his past with a client who initially rejected everything, but later agreed once trust was established through clear, passionate, and emotionally driven explanations of the terms. Uchimura pointed out that the failure in Mandora's negotiations stemmed from the Minotaur leader not understanding the terms or the purpose of the negotiations. He also highlighted that the straw requested by the leader was an important gesture of goodwill in their culture, as the Minotaurs used straw to accommodate guests sleeping on it to avoid overcrowding their rooms with furniture. The leader had been frustrated because he couldn't sleep comfortably on the ground. Hearing this, Mandora felt a pang of regret, realizing that the failure had been due to her inability to understand the Minotaur leader. However, the Minotaur leader interrupted, admitting that the fault was mutual. He hadn't understood her negotiation style either and apologized to her. They shook hands, reconciling their differences. The Minotaur leader then expressed gratitude to Uchimura, thanking him for making the agreement possible. At that moment, the Demon King appeared and praised Uchimura's unique talent for identifying unnoticed problems and resolving them effectively. He then formally welcomed Uchimura as a general in his army, declaring that no one could doubt his abilities after the success of this test. He turned to Mandora, who, though reluctant, finally agreed with the decision. The Demon King then asked Uchimura to extend his hand. He presented him with an emblem symbolizing his status as one of the 4 generals. After putting it on, Uchimura was instructed by the Demon King to always act decisively and do what he believed was right without hesitation. Uchimura felt a deep sense of pride and pledged to fulfill his role with dedication. Mandora, in her usual sharp tone, asked Uchimura to raise his hand. When he seemed confused, she scolded him and explained that this was their way of welcoming new comrades. She then declared that she hadn't fully acknowledged him yet and demanded that he prove himself further by succeeding in more negotiations. The Demon King concluded by stating that the army was still incomplete and had many issues to address. However, with Uchimura leading the way, they would advance and achieve greatness.